Hey, all right. What's going on? What's going on, ladies and gentlemen and ladies? Welcome back once again to another episode of Eddie G's Comic Culture. I am your host, the one and only Eddie G, here bringing it to you live and direct as I usually and only can myself. Once again, welcome back to all the repeat viewers. If you guys already know, you already know exactly how I get down. I start off every show with I start off every episode with the shout out to friends of mine and family as well. Um, Making sure that everyone who's acknowledged gets acknowledged for their support. Honestly, first and foremost, this is the show still sponsored by the great folks over at Black Apparel. Make sure you check out their website at www.blackapparelblk.com. Sending a special shout out to those folks and as well a good friend and brother of mine, Kevin Seawright. Also next up on the list is my Instagram friends, the one and only the Strictly Comedy Vault by the name. He's a young up and coming writer. He's got some good stuff on his page, so make sure you guys check him out if you guys have an account. He's got some awesome content for you. And of course, one of the big inspirations on this is Blu-ray Dan, who also has not just an Instagram page but a YouTube channel as well, which he keeps constantly refreshed every day. He's got some awesome videos showcasing some of the marvelous movies he's actually managed to collect on 4K Blu-ray, and does some awesome reviews as well, and not just for for brand new movies, old ones as well, also. So make sure you check him out whenever you guys have the opportunity to do so. So today I'm not really feeling too good. I've been a little under the weather since this morning. So I figured at this point, you know how you get home when you call out from work and you're not really yourself, But at this point, I figured I might as well just, it beats laying down all day. So I'm just gonna go ahead and make a video. Today's book, and I know I've been dropping so many hints and previews and updates about exactly how I'm doing this, but this is finally it, guys. I'm kicking off this show with my personal review of one of my favorite characters, the Savage Dragon. Alright, get a good look at the shot right there. That's the cover of the first trade paperback that I managed to pick up. I bought it on Amazon about earlier this year, and I gotta say it's definitely become one of my. I was always looking into especially now in my 30s. I'm looking more and more into older characters from back in my childhood that I really didn't pay attention to, and so now I'm actually taking a look into their work, and then I'm seeing like exactly what was it, what was it that initially drew, like, it had my curiosity then, but it just wasn't enough for me to drop my my hard-earned money at that time to buy their issues, honestly, because whenever I had money for comics, it was basically just me. It was basically for what I had to pick up from what I was already reading that week. So, with that in mind, I basically, I had perused a lot of books, a lot of covers, and especially in the early 90s, around that time, Image was really big, with books like Young Blood, Wildcat, so on and so forth. And then on top of that, you had Spawn and a lot of the lesser known publishers were really getting a lot of love back in that time frame, that era. Dark Horse Comics, for one, was another one, and Image, of course, was no exception. It was part of the big boom, and then it kind of fizzled out, and then I know it got picked up. I know Warner Brothers in DC bought it out, so it's actually now their universe is with with them. But even though Image is still running on its own, but it's always been, now it's like, their parent company is Warner Brothers. So it'd be pretty cool to see some of these characters on the silver screen, considering now the basic boom of comic book films has been like exploded in the last 10 years. But getting back to the book, I want to just say that it's one of those. It's definitely one of those '90s books where we still had the love for the creature features and so on and so forth. Like back in the days, there was a lot of crazy cartoons. If you guys don't remember, there was a Saturday morning cartoon based on the Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And then you had the Toxic Crusaders, which I don't know how they managed to get away with, considering the fact that those movies, the live action movies, were not for kids at all, and yet they marketed them as a cartoon for Saturday mornings. So Savage Dragon was one of them that got love, and it was one of those creature feature moments in the '90s that where it kind of came back, and it kind of the book starts off with the title character. He's pretty much located by a police officer. The whole series takes place in Chicago, mind you. That's his home base setting anyway, and he wakes up I don't even know if I'm even saying this right. Blah, blah, blah. He wakes up with amnesia. He has no recollection of who he is or how he got there. He's just found in the middle of a burning, in the middle of a fire in some building somewhere, and He's taken to the hospital. He has no idea who he is, what his name is. However, he has knowledge of other things going on, especially society's issues going on. Like they ask him who the current president was at that time, and he managed to, for instance, actually answer that question correctly, which was George Bush, of course. But yeah, it was a pretty dope. It was pretty crazy. Eric Larson, who which is one of the main reasons why I always wanted to pick this book up, was arting, was illustrating this book for a long time, and so he had a lot of my experience with his history was dates back to the Spectacular Spider-Man when he was illustrating that in the early '90s also. And Eric Larson has a distinctive way of drawing his art in comics. He can be To me, he can be a little pervy from time to time because of the way he kind of like the way he illustrates women in his books is a little out there, so it's always been like that, and even this book in itself is a little racy at times. So I'm like, I don't see how that really like translates for potential for Saturday morning cartoons for kids, but apparently it did at that time, as it did air on the USA Network for a little while. So with that being said, like it actually, it definitely developed a cult following. It lasted this long ever since its debut, I believe in '92 or '93, and it's been inherited ever since. There's a lot of cameos in the book as well. I'm not gonna spoil just to name a few. Well, for some reason, well, I'm gonna mention one for a spoiler. One of them is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, because I forgot that they were also a comic book. But what was crazy is that the TMNT the Ninja Turtles were never an Image imprint. They were pretty much Dark Horse, from all I've known. And I don't even think they were Dark Horse. No, there's some other publisher. I'm not too sure right about now, but I think they're either Dark Horse or some other independent publishing. Either way, but for some reason, yeah, they show up in the book, and that was one of the most astounding cameos I've ever seen. I didn't expect that. Like I really didn't expect that. I expected the other cameos from the other Image books at the time that were immensely popular. But and they were a pleasant surprise, by the way. But the Ninja Turtles were just literally out of left field. I didn't expect that coming at all. So that was a pretty cool book, but it basically centers around Dragon and his life in Chicago, surviving. He was befriended by a police officer in the Chicago PD, and it basically picks up where he's just a member of the police force because they're begging. Apparently Chicago has been hit with a serious crime wave of mutants and superpowered. They call them super freaks, if I'm not mistaken, or superpowered freaks, if one of those two, and they're basically treated in the same manner as humans would treat the mutants in the X-Men books. So there is a sort of prejudice going on at that time, and it basically the police department was being literally like crapped on left and right by these individuals, these criminals, so to speak, and they needed something to level to even the odds, to level the playing field, and so they were baiting Dragon more and more to join the police force until finally something happens and he ends up having to do it. Now, in this entire process, it just turns out as he joins, and as he becomes a police officer, he starts to delve real deeper into the underworld, the criminal underworld of Chicago in this book. And what I found awesome about the writing was exactly how realistic a lot of ways it was. It kind of like turns like it really states exactly how people were, in a sense. Like it's kind of like in your face but not really in your face. um One of the scenes that there's that they have, like and there's a panel in the book where it revolves around reporters interviewing random citizens and their thoughts, and it's kind of harked me back to Frank Miller's A Dark Knight Returns, exactly. And at that point, like, I was surprised that there's a racial slur being used by a white person in the book, and I was a little caught off guard by that. But it really solidified exactly what some people, it's reality. It's just, regardless of how you view the subject, it's a comic book. It's completely fantasy. There's elements of real life in the book, in a lot of these books that we shy away from or choose to ignore. So one of that, like it really came out of left field to see that, and basically it revolves around Dragon's entire performance on the Force and the things that he has to deal with. Apart from the fact that he's got the super, the mutants, the super freaks, or so to speak, called, and basically are becoming a wear and tear deal on him, and he encounters other characters along the way that can help him, and they formulate some sort of league, I guess you could say. But I don't want to get into too many details to spoil the book. If you guys want to check it out, it's definitely it's awesome, because in a sense it really just showcases in another way of how a person as different as he is in the book can encounter day-to-day life's problems with people who don't like to be, who act a certain way and have a certain mentality. And hell, man, Dragon is also a womanizer as hell. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, the man gets laid beyond belief in this book. He's like a superpowered Bruce Wayne, I guess you could say. But yeah, he does get his play, man. He definitely gets his play in the book, and it's pretty funny. But then at the same time, it kind of delves into, like, this is a little past PG-13 territory, so it's not so bad. But definitely a great book, man. I'm also looking to pick up the second volume very soon. I'm probably this week, if anything, because I've only ordered it off of Amazon, and I'm living where I'm at in Florida. There's not too much access to back issues, where I'm at. So I mean, I do have a comic book store around, and that's cool, and it does that, but it's also very limited in space, so they can't really contain so much stuff in the first place. So it kind of makes me itch for New York, but no, neither here nor there. It's an excellent read, guys. I definitely recommend it if you guys have any interest in any of the creature feature explosion, the creature feature boom of the '90s, the early to mid '90s. This is definitely something for you guys to check out. It's not a bad book at all. The art is amazing. A little risque, so I wouldn't really just let it be known to like young children. But definitely, man, make sure you guys pick this one up. It's a definite must have, and a great addition to your library as well. So I know that last night, I did a little episode. I gave a little quick brief review regarding the Justice League. Now that I'm a little bit more more collective with my thoughts, my initial response is that it was a good movie. It's disappointing right about now, of course, at the box office. This hasn't been really much of a good time. It hasn't really received the fair treatment. I'm gonna be honest. A lot of the critics' reviews on the movie isn't too great, and I think it's a little unfair. Some of the criticisms are a bit unfair, considering the fact that this movie had the two directors behind the camera lens, and but at the same token, I can't. I was a pessimist, and I'm a realist. I'm sorry, and it wasn't like I'm downplaying, the characters at all. I think this was finally the piece of translation we needed to see these characters done correctly, because this was mishandled inappropriately since the very beginning, since 2013. I mean, after Man of Steel became, such a divisive movie, and it wasn't really that bad. It wasn't really as bad as a lot of people made it seem to be, but as divisive as it was certainly time to change up the writers' room. The writers in the room, the people that are working on it, because it really didn't. It really shows exactly that they're trying to do something to compete with their to compete with the other brand, and that's exactly what I got, from the last three entries. Apart from Wonder Woman was amazing. Apart from Wonder Woman, excuse me. For some reason, I'm having just, I guess it's the illness in me today. I'm really having a hard time, like, pronouncing certain things. But Wonder Woman was the exception. The other three films are not. And so, now that we finally get to see a proper characterization of these of these iconic figures, these legendary figures, now is the time where it's taking a hit in the pockets. Now, I don't think it's going to be a complete failure. I think it's going to make some money. It's definitely going to have to rely on a lot of international box office numbers and pull for it to go ahead. Plus, on top of that, it has another major thing coming out this weekend, which is Coco, which is also getting rave reviews. And you guys know how Pixar does at the box office. If you don't follow them, they literally crush it every time. So basically it's just, it's a pretty unfair advantage. These characters deserved better. They deserved a lot better, and hopefully moving forward, considering the future, because everybody's questioning what's going to happen now. There's nothing else that can happen. They have to go forward. This is the L that WB had to take. It's an unfortunate loss, but it had to happen because of the simple, the way things played out earlier. Just, it wasn't on the, it didn't groove well, and it took them a minute to just go ahead and just get it back into perspective. But it had to happen. It was gonna happen. It was inevitable. It was literally inevitable. And the patience to see these. This isn't Transformers. You understand? This isn't nostalgia. This is a movie. These are characters that have been around for over 80 years. These are icons. These are legends. These are heroes from people that are alive at this day to people who are gone. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can't tarnish the legacy of these things for a quick buck. And especially when you look at the earlier iterations on film, and they were handled with so much more care and concern. So, in the end, it's just like, I really hope to see Henry Cavill Superman again under a new direction. What I saw from him in Justice League over the weekend was absolutely phenomenal. I was floored. I thought that and I thought the other characters were portrayed excellent as well. But this time around, I really got to like, you really got to like Superman for real, like, for what he was, because he represented, like, he really was the actual Superman that we were all looking for, that we were all looking forward to. So, moving forward, I'm just like, this point, and it's a long wait, mind you. It's going to be a long wait because the next film from DC we're going to have, it's not released until December, even though it's already wrapped. But at this point, this is I expect a masterpiece. You know, it's Aquaman, and so Aquaman comes out December next year, so that's pretty cool. But let's see what happens. I want to see some more shakeups. I want to see some more writers committed to now these projects. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see actual projects taking into Rome, taking form, taking shape. So I guess that's going to be all for now. I want to thank you guys once again for tuning in as usually, for listening to me talk crap as I always do. But definitely, I love the, thank you for tuning in and staying with me, riding out on these, especially during these troubling times. But I'll you know what this is. This is a comic book forum. This is basically all for us, and to have a conversation. Tell me if you have any questions or suggestions or comments. You already know where the comment section is at. Hit me up, and I'll talk to you guys. It's a great thing for us to have this momentum, this moment of interaction. But definitely, if you have any differing opinions about that, let me know what you found, what you like, what you didn't like. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. So until the next time, and I'll keep your eyes open. I just managed to buy myself some trades regarding Rebirth, so I'm back on that. So you'll be getting some new reviews on books as well too. So make sure you keep your eyes open. I'll keep you guys posted through my updates on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Okay. Well, so that's enough for me to talk my crap. I'll see you guys later. Take care of yourselves, and until next time.